morning! Welcome back to Keto and the Chaos. I'm so glad to see you today. If this is your first visit, I encourage you to watch my other videos so that you don't miss anything. It's my plan with these videos to break down the ketogenic diet into bite-sized pieces that are easy to digest. So what exactly is a ketogenic diet? Well, a ketogenic diet is any diet where you limit your carbohydrate intake. When you limit your carbohydrate intake to 25 or even 20 grams of carbohydrates, you basically starve your body of glucose. It doesn't have a food source anymore. It doesn't have a way to get energy. And it needs to find another way to get energy. And so then it turns to your natural body's fat stores in order to find that energy. When this happens, you end up with ketones in your system. Now, ketones, I don't really want to get into the science of ketones. If you want to learn about the science of ketones and how that exactly works with ketosis and everything, just go ahead and buy the book on Amazon that's called The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Living. That has all the science information about the diet that I do, but I just really want to make this easy for you. So basically, when you don't eat carbohydrates, you starve your body of glucose, and so you don't have an energy source, and your body has to find an alternate energy source. Don't we all want our bodies to find the energy source it's been storing rather than trying to feed it all the time from the foods we eat? Of course we do. That's how we get slimmer, that's how we get trimmer, that's how we cut fat. So basically what you need to do is to limit your carbohydrates to under 20 grams. It sounds really daunting at first because pretty much everything has a lot of carbohydrates. Even most weight loss shakes, if you read the ingredients, have more than 20 grams of carbohydrates in each one. You're basically starving your body of glycogen that it uses in order to have energy to do your daily tasks. Instead, it turns to the rest of your body and burns the fat that's on your body, in turn making ketones, which is what your body uses for energy. That's called going into ketosis. You'll hear a lot about ketosis on YouTube. There's fast ways to get into ketosis, how to tell if you're in ketosis, how many carbs you need to eat in order to enter ketosis. What is ketosis? I'm not going to go into any of that. There's plenty of YouTube already out there on that subject. Just type in ketosis, you'll find it. So entering ketosis is simple. You don't need to do anything crazy. All you need to do is eat less than 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. That's it. You do not need any testing supplies. You do not need any pee sticks to prove it. Trust me, if you're eating less than 20 grams of carbohydrates per day, you're in ketosis. Just trust that you are. It is not necessary. Save your money for meat. Speaking of ketosis, when you're out there doing your research on a ketogenic diet, you're going to find a lot of opinions on what keto actually is. When it comes right down to it, any diet that puts you into ketosis is a ketogenic diet, regardless of how many fats you're encouraged to eat, how much protein you're encouraged to eat. There are many other versions of keto. The most common version is the medical keto or the original keto, which was created in order to help epileptics and cancer patients. It can help with weight loss, but the protein deficit is a little bit low, and people tend to lose muscle as well as their fat, and really, honestly, that's not good. We need our muscle mass in order to burn more fat, and if we lose our muscle mass, we won't burn as much fat as we need to. So there's also a crash diet form of keto where it's really extremely low fat and extremely high protein. This can work in a short period of time, but it's definitely not something that you can do for long-term weight loss. The ketogenic diet that I'm going to teach you about falls somewhere in the middle. It's not super low fat and it's not super high fat. It's moderate fat. We also have a higher protein than most original keto diet guidelines. That's in order to preserve our muscle mass. You do not want to lose your muscle mass. You need your muscle mass to burn fat. You don't want to eat so much fat that your body fat doesn't burn, and you don't want to eat so few grams of fat that you don't have brain and hormone health, and that you get really angry and get mad at people, which is what happens if you go too low. So I'd like to give you the information about that. If you are interested in other versions of keto, that's great. There's plenty of information out there on YouTube. I didn't find a lot of information on moderate fat keto and keto for fat loss, and so that's what I'm trying to teach you about today. And I encourage you to stay and learn about this and see if maybe it might work for you. A ketogenic diet that's configured for fat loss runs by macrograms rather than percents. Most keto versions have a percentage of macros that you need to meet, and ours has a gram number. What are macros? Oh, right. Macros are macronutrients. Those are the things that you need to eat in order to be healthy. So, basic macros that we use: proteins, fats, carbs. Those are your macros. And when you get your macros, they will be a specific number, not a percentage. So if you're finding a calculator online and it's telling you that it's going to be like 75% this or 25% that and 5% this, no. That can get really confusing really quickly, and plus, how do you know how many calories? What if you eat too much protein and so you need to up your fat percentage, and the more you up it, you get up to 3,000 calories, you're not going to lose weight. It's not a deficit. You still need to have a caloric deficit in order to burn fat. That's just a fact of life. That's a fact of how diets work. And so basically what you need to do is limit the amount of protein, fats, and carbs so that your calories stay in check, usually between about 900 to 1,500 calories, depending on your height and your lean body mass. So how do you get your macros? Well, the easiest way to get your macros is to join the Facebook group that I mentioned on the first video. Ketogenic Dieters. It's the one with the big stop sign in the cover photo. Go ahead and join the group. I'm a moderator and I will approve you to join. And then if you look in the pinned post and scroll down towards the bottom, there's a chart there with your height and sex that will tell you the exact macros you should eat in order to lose weight. These are the macros that I have personally used. My personal macros are 120 grams of protein, 78 grams of fat, and 20 grams of carbs, or 21 grams of carbs, but I do try to stay below 20. And I got my macros from the macro chart in the pinned post on the Ketogenic Dieters Facebook page. If you've had a DEXA scan and you know your body fat percentage, you can get custom macros from a place called like ketogains.com. They have a calculator and you just input your body fat percentage, and it gives you a more accurate macro. The ones in our pinned post are based off the average lean body mass for your height. So they pretty much work for everybody, but if you really want it to be custom, you need to have a DEXA scan to find out your actual body fat percentage in order to use the calculator. There are some online calculators using measurements and things that might help you get your body fat percentage. It'll be close. You can decide if you want to use the Ketogains macros or if you want to just use the Ketogenic Dieters macros, which is the easier thing to do. But you know, either way works. They're both of them will be set at a deficit for weight loss, for fat loss, not weight loss. And that's exactly what you need. Okay, so once you have your macros, what do you do with them? Well, you need your handy dandy phone and you need an app. So you need some kind of tracking app so that you can keep track of what you're eating. So it's common to use MyFitnessPal, but I have found that Chronometer works a lot better. So go ahead and download either of those apps or any other tracking app of your choice. There's quite a few out there. There's some that are set specifically for keto. I know my husband uses one that's for keto. It doesn't matter what your app is as long as it is able to calculate your macros for you, and so that you can see that you're meeting your proteins and your fats and your carbs each day. Okay, so when you get your macro, you're going to measure your food. You're going to input your information into your app before you ever take a bite. So the night before or the morning of, you're just going to put all your information, all the food that you plan to eat into your app for the day, and make sure that you're meeting your 120, 78, 20, whatever your personal macros are based on your height. Make sure that you've met those before you ever take a bite. It's the way you can be the most successful, I promise. If you will do that and pre-plan, you're never going to get into a bind where you're like, oh no, I have 25 grams of fat I need to eat and no protein left, or vice versa, or something like that. And then you have to worry and try and jury rig some crazy concoction in order to meet your macros, and that's just crazy. So it's always, always, always best to plan in advance, and that's what your app will do for you if you'll just go in, and you can even plan a week's worth of meals. You can pre-plan and prepare everything in advance. It's totally up to you how you do it. I prefer to do it the morning of, just because that's how I roll, but you know, whatever way works for you is the best. So once you have your macros and your app, you're all ready to eat. But what can you eat? Well, it's pretty simple. Pretty much you can eat any type of meat. So beef, chicken, pork, turkey, oh my goodness, bacon and pork, same thing. Any kind of birds, fowls, alligator, snake, fish, crawfish, lobster, crab. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I'm not even close to naming them all. You can eat all of those. Isn't that great? I love it. Anyway, so meats, cheeses. So dairy products are kind of tricky. You can eat cheeses. Watch the carb count, especially on things like cottage cheese. You can eat yogurt, but only plain. Mostly Greek yogurt is what I tend to lean to, but plain yogurt that has live cultures is good for a keto diet. You can use it in all kinds of things. You can use it in gravies, dressings, all kinds of things. So I really like to use yogurt wherever I can. You can have all kinds of veggies. You can have pretty much any leafies, lettuce, that kind of thing. Avocado is a huge favorite. It's also a healthy fat, which is good. Broccoli, cauliflower, zucchini, squash, watch the carbs. Tomatoes, watch the carbs. Onions, definitely small amounts, and watch the carbs. Pretty much most vegetables you can eat, so that's good. Fruits you can eat sparingly, but only berries. Berries are the lowest carb of the fruits that are out there. You don't probably want to eat any berries the first month that you're doing it. They're a little sweet and they can be triggering to you if you're trying to really eliminate sweet foods. So be really careful with your berries. If you choose to eat berries, you'll often find you don't have room for your leafy greens, and you really need those in order to be healthy. So I try and stick to berries once or twice a month. I try not to have them daily or even sometimes once a week. I don't know. It depends on my mood, but berries are definitely okay on keto. Nuts are also okay on keto technically. I choose not to eat nuts because they have a high calorie, high fat content. It's really hard for me to meet my macros, and it's really hard not to overindulge in nuts. I'll usually plan on eating, if I'm going to eat some, I can only have like a few, and then you'll eat a few and it's just not enough and you want to keep snacking. It's just too tempting. So when you're just starting out on ketogenic diet, I highly recommend avoiding nuts. That's probably the best. And other things you should avoid. So there are things that you can have on keto, but there are things you definitely cannot have. And these are the things you definitely cannot have. Rice, potatoes, bread, any of those big starches. Try to avoid root vegetables of any kind, so really not even sweet potato, and carrots in moderation, in small amounts. Just be careful with them. They tend to also be one that you can overindulge in because they tend to be sweeter. What else can you not eat? Sugar, haha, the worst one. The one we're all addicted to, the one that makes us miserable. Oh, sugar, I love sugar. But you know what? 2 weeks off of sugar and you'll be a whole different person. You won't even know yourself. You'll feel like you've just stepped out of a fog into a beautiful sunlit room. I mean, it's amazing the fog that sugar can cause. So sugar is a number one that you got to avoid. I'll tell you what. It's also the hardest one. I'm trying to think of what else you cannot eat. Oh, in this version of ketogenic dieting, we do not do keto-fied foods. So you're going to see keto-fied foods pretty much on every other keto channel that's out there. I do not advocate those at all. No fake desserts. None. They're only going to lead you down a slippery slope back to where you started. Just trust me. Avoid almond flours. Avoid any kind of flours that are keto friendly. Do not bake. Do not make bread. Trust me, you will just be better off if you stick to whole foods in a paleo sort of way with a low carb emphasis. And you're just going to be better off that way. It's a healthier way to eat. And then you don't have to always be thinking of how you can tweak things in order to fit your macros. That's not the kind of diet I'm trying to teach you how to do. It's not about fitting in your macros. It's about getting the most healthy nutrition for those numbers that you can. And if you're filling up your calories with fake desserts and fake breads, you're not going to get the nutrients that you need in order to be healthy. but not least, electrolytes. This is the section that is the most important because it's the most overlooked and it's the most argued about. Seriously, I have never had people argue with me so much as I do when I'm talking about electrolytes on a ketogenic diet. It is not that complicated to understand that when you have ketones in your system, your body tries to flush them. Ketogenic diet is diuretic. Your body will try and flush them in every way that it possibly can. And so basically, you're losing all your electrolytes all day. So you need your electrolytes in order for your body to work. You do not have a choice on this. This is not something that you wait until you feel miserable and then you do it. You need to do it from day one. Day one. I am going to do a whole entire video on how to meet electrolytes, and that's going to be very important to you, but I will tell you the basics right here. In order for your body to work properly and for you to feel good, you need a minimum of 5,000 milligrams of sodium per day. Minimum. It's really hard to get that much sodium in. We're not talking about salting your foods or eating bacon or those kind of things. We are talking about supplementing sodium. And people will argue and argue about this point, but I'll tell you what, I know from experience, if you do not eat your sodium, you will be miserable. There are several ways to get your sodium. You can eat plain salt, Redmond salt, weigh it out, eat it. You can make Solé water, Google it, it's super easy to make. You can drink bouillon. Whatever you choose to do for your sodium, you need to do it every single day. The second thing that you need is magnesium, and you need a minimum of 300 milligrams of magnesium per day. 300 to 500 is the recommended. I choose to take 600 myself just because I feel better that way, but you do need 300 milligrams minimum. And you want to avoid magnesium oxide because it is not absorbable. It's only like 4% absorbable. You don't want to waste your money on that. So go ahead and get citrate or something else along those lines. Citrate's what I do. There are products that are even a drink. There's one called Mag Calm that's very popular. So just find a magnesium source that you like. And then the third one is potassium. You need a minimum of 1,000 milligrams of potassium, but you don't want to go above 3,500 milligrams of potassium. Potassium is one that can be overdone, so you need to just make sure that you track it in your app. You need to be tracking your sodium, your magnesium, and your potassium in your app. Make sure that your foods, your entries for your foods include those things so that you don't overdo it on potassium. There's a lot of potassium in foods, and that's where I get most of my potassium. If you find you're not able to meet your potassium numbers through your food intake, then you can add a supplement called No Salt, and No Salt is a potassium supplement that you can use on your foods or in your keto drinks. If you decide to make a Ketorade or something like that, you can bring up your potassium that way. Well, hi, Dimitri. Dimitri came to say hello and goodbye to you guys. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that I helped make the ketogenic diet more understandable for you. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments and I will answer them there. I might even make a short video based on your question. I'd love to know what you want to know. I would love to know if I've made this even harder to understand or if I've helped explain it a little bit. I really want you to be successful. Once again, I've lost 100 pounds in 8 months, and in the next year I plan to lose 100 more. And I want to take you guys with me on that journey and we can both be successful. And I'm really excited. So thank you for joining me. I'll see you soon.